So Bournemouth have sacked manager Jason Tindall after last night's result. Where did he go from here? Let's take a look into it. Guys, welcome back to another video. Bit of a quick one coming at you today, but like we just mentioned, Jason Tindall has been sacked by Bournemouth after losing 2-1 to Sheffield Wednesday. Quite a bit to unpack with this one. Bournemouth have been quite the interesting club so far this season. I want to get your guys' views on this in the comments down below. We'll be talking about his tenure at Bournemouth so far and where they actually go for from here, who will be the replacement coming in. Before we jump into anything though, we must give a big shout out to our sponsors over at OneFootball. If you want to stay on top of everything that is going on around the footballing world, OneFootball is the place to go ahead and do that. Get live updates to your phone whenever a goal goes in. It's really handy to stay on top of everything. Get all the latest stats and read up on all the latest news articles. Link down below. If we look to the league table to the side of me, Bournemouth do currently find themselves in the top 6. However, Middlesbrough hot on their heels, Blackburn and Bristol City both have games in hand, and the form really was starting to take a turn. Let's look into that. So throughout the season so far, here is a full review of Bournemouth's results up until this point. Now, interestingly enough, up until they lost that game against Derby, Bournemouth hadn't actually lost back-to-back games so far this season. So up until that point, their bounce-back ability had already been pretty decent, but 4 losses now from their last 5 matches has seen their grasp on the top 6 and really on the top 2, which is where they were aiming for, starting to slip away. Now, for me, you look past the results and look into the context of them as well. I think it's important to do. And to be honest with you, the last time that I can really say that I think, okay, Bournemouth have played very well here, was probably in that 5-0 against Huddersfield, and that was all the way back on the 12th of December there. Don't get me wrong, they picked up results since, but they've certainly been less convincing than they were. And even in that game against Huddersfield, it was a pretty sort of makeshift Huddersfield side, wasn't it? And dare I say it, maybe some of the cracks started to show early on into December when Preston beat Bournemouth 3-2 in that dramatic game. I think there's been a bit of a reluctancy by Jason Tindall to diverge away from that 3-4-3 system that they played for the majority of the season so far. At the start of the season, I did have Bournemouth outside of my top 6 prediction, purely for the sort of Jason Tindall factor. Really, I wasn't sure which way it would sort of swing, and to be honest with you, this one does remind me slightly of the Darren Moore at West Brom situation. So when West Brom got relegated to the Championship, fairly similar circumstances, they went and appointed Darren Moore from within the club already, obviously Bournemouth with Jason Tindall, who's been there all his career. At the time, that sacking felt extremely harsh, but the season after, they brought in Bilic and completely levelled up their game. I feel like that's sort of what Bournemouth are going for here, obviously. Sometimes the inexperienced manager coming in completely works out. Scott Parker got Fulham promoted at the first time of asking. But if we look at some of the names here on this team sheet, I mean, undoubtedly, this is one of the most talented squads in the Championship. Added to that, you know, they brought in Ben Pearson, one of the best holding midfielders in January as well. It's a team who shouldn't be struggling for form, and you are, when you do have these sort of resources available to you, you're going to be judged on a much higher standard, aren't you? So I do welcome your guys' thoughts on this one in the comments down below. Do you think it was harsh, or do you think that realistically this was probably the right thing? Now let's move our attention to who could actually be coming in as that replacement. If we take a look to the side of me at the current odds for Tindall's replacement, it's Jonathan Woodgate who's leading the way at the moment, which I can't imagine all too many Bournemouth fans would be all too happy with. Now, timing obviously is a wonderful thing in football. This one is a little bit peculiar really, because Jonathan Woodgate has only just been brought in as a first team coach, and obviously just a few days later now, Tindall has lost his job. Looking at Jonathan Woodgate's previous CV, obviously his only managerial job this far into his career has been with Middlesbrough. Not a convincing stint there, I think it's fair to say, albeit he didn't come in the easiest of circumstances. He had quite a few youngsters to sort of work with there. The budget was being held back a little bit. I'm not sold on Jonathan Woodgate really, and I think that, you know, to part company with Tindall to then only appoint Woodgate seems a little bit off to me. That John Terry would very much be the gamble of an appointment. I think it's fair to say, with him going down a slightly different route than to some of his other England colleagues, obviously with Frank Lampard and Wayne Rooney most recently going straight into management. Terry's chosen a slightly different route, going in as the number 2 at Aston Villa, learning his trade there off Dean Smith. I'm not too sure on this one, to be honest with you. I think that one would be quite the gamble for them in this current situation, you know, with them seemingly not willing to give Tindall time. You'd question question whether they give another fairly inexperienced manager that same amount of time for an adaptation period. Now for me personally, Frank Lampard would be the most interesting appointment. I think that if they were to go down the slightly safer sort of pragmatic route, someone like Paul Cook, maybe even a Danny Cowley maybe would come in, but Frank Lampard excites me still. If we look at his time back at Derby County, obviously he does have experience in the Championship already and actually getting a side into the playoffs. Now I feel like his time at Derby slightly looked back on a little bit harshly. The things that a lot of people say is, oh, you know, he took this Derby side from 6th to 6th, but there's context within that obviously. Within that time, Derby had lost their top scorer in Matej Vydra, and don't get me wrong, they had some unbelievable loan players in the team at that time. However, the top of the Championship, that season especially, the 18-19 season, the quality was absolutely immense. This was when Norwich went up as champions. They were playing some wonderful football under Daniel Farke. Sheffield United, who then went on to finish in the top half of the Premier League, were also in the league. Marcelo Bielsa's Leeds United, West Brom, who had all the parachute money and had a forward three of Dwight Gale, Harvey Barnes and Jay Rodriguez. Aston Villa with Jack Grealish were in the Championship. It was a league which was absolutely full of quality, so I don't think that that job that Lampard did with Derby that season should be underestimated. Obviously he was one game away from getting them into the Premier League, and I think that the other thing that Lampard has going his way, and I don't think that anyone can deny this, is the fact that he's been brilliant at working with youngsters. You know, showed that from his time at Derby, that was carried on at Chelsea, especially during his first season there, where he did do a very good job. Bournemouth currently have the 4th youngest squad in the Championship. There's a lot of young talent which really could be brought on by Frank Lampard within that squad, and I don't know, I just feel like that would be a really interesting match at this point of his career. I feel like he can give Bournemouth quite a bit, and they can obviously provide him with the opportunity to be getting back into the Premier League. But there we have it, guys. That will now wrap it up for today's video. So as always, I do welcome your guys' thoughts on this one in the comments down below. Also let me know if you do enjoy these sort of shorter styled videos where we look to tackle one more like specific focus point, because yeah, I do really enjoy making them. So guys, if you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like, please subscribe for a bit of regular Championship content as well. We're pushing our way towards 30k. But apart from that, thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.